Good afternoon. Veritas instituted proceedings against the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs and the Attorney General of Zimbabwe for failing to enact an Act of Parliament that is stipulated in terms of Section 198 that should state that public officials should regularly disclose their assets, and that there be a code of conduct regulating public officials, and that there should be also disciplinary proceedings in the effect of failure of conducting themselves in terms of the code of conduct.
Well, thank you very much. So we were instructed by Veritas to bring in an application to fight corruption. As all of you know, Chapter 9 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe deals with the basic values and principles governing public administration. And Chapter 9 demands accountability. Chapter 9 demands transparency. Chapter 9 demands respect. Chapter 9 demands ethical conduct. Chapter 9 demands the sacrosanctity of the citizen in public administration. It is very clear. You must respect the customer. You must respect the citizen. Chapter 9 then goes on to outline certain expectations of public officials, and particularly of state-owned companies. One of the things that Chapter 9 actually does is to say that companies that are state-owned should have terms of office of their appointed managers. So in Zimbabwe, you've got the mischief of certain chief executive officers who regard their state-owned enterprises as a fiefdom. You have had people running organizations such as Zimbra, staying there for so many years. I shan't mention names. Zimbabwe, so many parastatals, GMP, and so forth. So Chapter 9 says there must be terms of office. Chapter 9 says there must be codes of conduct. So Chapter 9 is about dealing with corruption. Chapter 9 says there must be regular asset disclosure. Section 198 then says a law must be passed by government to codify the demands and values that are reflected in Chapter 9. So the court application which we filed in the name of Honorable Rusty Markham, also known as Alan Norman Markham, was one to compel the government to pass this law, was one to say the government had failed to fulfill its constitutional obligation, because Section 324 of the Constitution says all constitutional obligations must be complied with timeously. So we are pleased to report that the High Court of Zimbabwe has issued a judgment ordering the government to come up with this law in the next 3 months. And we hope that the government will enact this law that fights corruption, that holds public officials, government ministers, parastatals, members of parliament, anyone who benefits from public funds to be accountable, local authority officials to be accountable. We expect this law to do the following. Number one, to define the high expectations, particularly on financial accountability, particularly on fiscal prudence. Oftentimes, someone joins the public service with one goat. By the time he leaves public service, he owns 400 heads of cattle, and there is no explanation as to why where